Yeah, I feel like this thunderstorm is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For spooky sips.
Hello, and welcome to Spooky Sips, where we put our love of horror movies into a podcast and sip some spirits along the way. I'm one of your hosts, Yvette, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Laura and Brianna.
Hello.
Hey. All right, so we just watched the French movie Climax. This movie is a wild ride. If you want to feel like you yourself have taken drugs, watch this movie because it'll do it. Essentially, it takes place in the mid 90s, I think 1996, and it's about a dance troupe that is partying after rehearsal in an old broke down school, and somebody spikes the punch. And it devolves very quickly from there.
Ooh la
Yeah.
la.
Ooh la la, oui.
Okay, so Brianna, you picked this movie, which shouldn't be surprising to anyone because I think of the three of us, you would be the one to pick this movie. How did you hear about this? Why did you watch it?
Okay, so I definitely like the darker movies out of the three of us, out of the menage a trois of us, shall we say.
Ooh la la.
And I found this movie because I looked up dark movies, and this was one of them.
Nice.
Yes.
Easy. Mhm.
Yes.
All right. Well, it was sure something.
Yeah.
Sure something to see. So
Yeah, I feel like this one is like less, do like our regular death count, like what's going on, more just like trying to process what I just watched. Because I watched it last night. So I just watched it and then went to bed. And I feel like I'm still just like processing. Honestly, I don't even know if I liked it yet. Like I kind of keep flip-flopping. Like I'm like, oh, it was great. I get it. And then also I don't get it. I don't even know if I like it. So my plan is to process while we talk about this.
Same. Yeah, I feel like this will be more kind of like a therapeutic episode.
Yeah.
For us rather than just a discussion of the movie.
Yeah. For our listeners that are not on Instagram, one, if you're not following us, you should be.
Definitely.
But two, we posted a quote, and I'm going to read it to you all because it really encapsulates this movie. But the quote is, "Climax is a disturbing, depraved, disgusting, and debauched piece of absolute insane genius that I thoroughly adored from beginning to end, and which I never, ever want to see again."
Yeah.
And I think that does justice to what the movie is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well put. Well put.
I wonder how many people have watched this more than once. I think I'm assuming you might be in the minority.
Yeah.
Of watching it and saying, you know what, let's go again.
Let's do it again.
Yeah, one more time.
Yeah. I don't know that I'll watch it again, although I do keep getting, they say when you take LSD that you get flashbacks of your LSD trips. So even when you're sober, sometimes you get this flashback where you hallucinate again. And I feel like I get LSD type flashbacks of this movie. I keep like thinking of scenes, and I also just watched it last night, but I still keep getting scenes of, the dancing horror that happened in the movie. So
because it's almost like a musical and a horror film.
Yeah,
it is.
Like whatever the equivalent of a dancicle.
Yes,
it's a dancicle and a horror film.
Yeah.
All wrapped into one.
Yeah, no, when the movie started, I honestly, most of the stuff I have written down is just my notes that I had while watching it.
Me too.
Because it started and I wrote, ooh, it's A24. Always fun. And then after they did their little like intro interview things that we get at the beginning, I wrote, it's giving Step Up. It's giving let's fix our problems with dance.
Yes. Absolutely, which is totally my type of movie.
Which honestly, with it, supposed to be taking place in the 90s.
It's perfect.
It should remind me of Step Up. If there's
Absolutely.
dance.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I must say I was personally offended by this movie because it took my absolute favorite song. It is my death song. It is the song that I want played while I am dying and or at my funeral. It's the Eric Satie, the Gymnopede. I don't know how if I'm saying that right. Number 1. It's like a symphony. It's the song that's at the very, very beginning.
Oh,
When I was a little kid, I used to call it the sad song. And it's my favorite piece of classical music ever. And they did it, but they made it like creepy and weird. And normally I like different versions of this song. This one I did not like.
Oh no.
It was almost like circusy. I don't know. But I was personally offended that they ruined my sad song.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, we can't forget the real opening scene, which is just the person running through the snow.
Yes.
Yeah, and she's doing to my favorite
to your sad song.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But yeah, so she's like, I did appreciate that about this movie where the camera angles were really cool. Yeah. And a lot of times they would be spinning around or upside down, but she's running through the snow, but it looks like she comes from the top of the screen because they're almost showing it upside down.
Yep.
It's very disorienting.
Cool. Yeah, the cinematography is a wild ride in and of itself, to be honest.
Yeah.
It really is.
I mean, yeah, so it starts with the scene with a girl in the snow, like kind of crawling. She's definitely covered in blood. And then we get the end credits of the movie.
Laura and I were worried that we started watching it because sometimes Amazon will play your movie from the end. And we were like, oh shit. Because I couldn't remember how it ended. And I thought, we thought maybe.
Yeah, so that threw me off and credits first, but it wasn't even like the old movies used to do, the full credits before the movie. Or I guess it kind of was like that, where the full credits of the movie after that little opening scene, and then it jumps into all the interviews with the dancers.
Yeah. So already from the beginning, I mean, I feel like I already said, but it's like this whole movie is just like an experience, like the director really said, like, whatever you expect out of a movie, I'm not giving it to you. Here's the end credits.
Yep.
Exactly.
I love the interviewing scenes.
Yeah.
Like, I love them being interviewed because I feel like it just showcases their personalities.
Yeah.
Well, and so I went into this movie knowing absolutely nothing. Never heard of it. Never I didn't watch the preview, nothing. Knowing it's a horror movie though, watching all of the interviewees get these questions asked to them about like, why do you love dance? And it's in front of this creepy wall. It's like, why do you love dance? What's your worst nightmare? Do you use drugs? What do you dream about? And I'm thinking, oh, this is like a Saw type thing. Someone's going to like use their dreams and nightmares and just mess with them. That's where my mind went.
Oh,
so it like set me on edge. That's not what ends up happening.
Yeah.
A little bit, I guess, but
right.
Yeah. It does set up for a bad trip though, right? Like, right. I mean, I've never done it, but I imagine if someone right before taking LSD was like, what's your worst nightmare? I don't think that'd be helpful.
No, I don't think so.
Exactly. Yeah. So then they have this like choreographed dance, which they've been practicing for, and it's got kind of like dirty sexual, but also kind of cool, unique, like each dancer gets to do their own cool, unique thing. So it's got this choreographed dance that they're practicing. We meet one of the dancers' kids. Yeah, the dance is insane.
They do so much stuff with their arms. Like, again, it's like this whole movie just has you mesmerized,
Especially the double jointed guy.
Oh my gosh, yes. And then they're all doing all of these like wild things. I wrote like, I'm not even that old and I would die or break everything if I tried. I think any of these moves.
Absolutely. Agreed. And we meet like one of the dancers' kids, like at the end of their choreographed dance. They've been practicing for a few days straight or something. And we meet little Tito, and he is so cute.
No, I saw the kid when they were doing their dance, because he does a little dance in like the background. And when I saw him, I was like, whoa, wait, was that a kid? in the background. And then later when they introduced it, I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like that there's a child here.
Uh-huh. Well,
I immediately was like, no.
they even kind of talk about that. Like the one of the kids is like, this is no place for a kid. And like after they've rehearsed, they kind of they do these long continuous shots where there's no break from the camera and they just follow multiple different dancers as they're just, I don't know, talking about nothing and just chatting with each other or talking about that Tito's not there, or it's just all these really, really long shots of them hanging out after the rehearsal but before the party starts.
Yeah, that scene was really long. I forgot to like clock how long it was, but like it's like, I mean, it is like, it does almost feel like a real party, right? Where you're just having like random conversations and you're just kind of focusing in on different people. And I guess like a big part of this movie too is like there is no main character.
No.
Which you kind of start, and you know, again, it just leads to that. Like, I feel like the director, writer, whatever, I feel like they just want you to feel uneasy. Because when the movie started with the girl crawling in the snow, I was like, this is it, final girl. This is our main character. This is who I'm looking out for. Right. Like that was like, you know, I didn't like literally think that, but like in my head, I kind of note of like, this is the main character.
Yeah. Or one of them.
The movie, like, I feel like I was trying to figure out like, wait, who am I supposed to be focusing on? And it's like, well, it's no one. It's all of them. It's, I don't even know how many characters there are, but like there's so many.
Yeah. And then we get this flash on the screen. And so I guess we could break the movie down into these parts, these quotes.
Yeah.
So then we get a flash on the screen that says, birth is a unique opportunity.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to there's just all these scenes of people having conversations. And this is more like once the after party gets started.
Yeah.
And they just keep flashing between all of these groups of people or these pairs of people having conversations.
And they're just talking about everything and nothing all at the same time.
Yeah. Also, I hate the two guys.
So I love that you said this because here's the thing. When the two guys started, I loved them because not many people share this opinion I have of they were freaked out by flags. They were like, at first they were paranoid. They were like, what is that flag? It's freaking me out. And I myself also, I don't know why, guys, but I hate flags.
Really?
I really hate them. I will never put a flag on my home or in my lawn. I think they're stupid.
Oh,
and they could represent something great or something horrible. But I feel like maybe that's what it is most of the time. It's like
even like a pride flag.
See, no, and that's a thing. Like, even though they represent something great, just flags on principle, I don't like them.
Interesting.
I don't know.
Okay, we're gonna dive deep into this.
We're gonna have to figure that out. Like, there's a flag store in our area. Like, you drive down the freeway, and there's this giant warehouse of like all these flags. It's like my worst nightmare. I hate flags. They're stupid.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Wow.
But anyway, these guys, like, they're funny and their laugh is adorable and they're talking about like flags freak them out and I love them. And then they get real rapey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I decide that I hate them.
And then it just keeps going and we keep going into their conversation. It's so long.
It's like Lou and I forget the other guy's name, or I don't even know if we know the other guy.
Honestly, I forget most of their names.
Yeah. So yeah, those guys made an impact on me as well.
Yeah. So yeah, we just get all of the characters talking. Oh, and then we get like a dance circle, right?
Yes.
So then it's like the party's going, everyone's done talking. It's time to start dancing. We get more crazy dancing.
And I felt like that dance circle scene lasted for at least 75 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, they were dancing for so long. And it was just like the beat and they were just dancing. And I was like, when is this dance going to end? And it was fun to watch. Like, I love dancing stuff.
Right.
But I also was just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that was the thing with most of the beginning of the movie. Like, I guess it's kind of like, I don't know, I guess you can divide into 3 parts or maybe 2 parts. But like the whole beginning, it's like, I feel like everything is painfully long. Like the dance scenes are so long. And then the conversation that they were having were so long. Like it's painfully slow watching it.
Yeah, it really is.
as they were dancing and it just kept going. And then I thought, okay, this is really long. It's got to stop. And then it kept doing that like 5 more times. I just was thinking to myself of the scene in Hocus Pocus where Bette Midler's character, Winifred, goes, dance, dance, dance until you die. And I was thinking, that's what the horror movie is. They all just dance until they just die.
They dance and dance. Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
Solid
The scene is
theory.
never going to end.
Keep going. Yeah. So but eventually it does, end.
It does.
And then we get the what did I wrote it down? Then we get like the names / kind of an intro credit, right? Because that's when we get all of the actors' names flashing on the screen. They have the artists of the music that they've been playing and are going to be playing. So we get kind of an intro credits at 45 minutes into the movie.
It was so weird. And I mean, not really speaking French. It also seemed like there was maybe companies. So maybe that was just the bands, but it seemed like companies and logos. I was like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah. And they were all in like different fonts. Like it was, it was again, like I wrote intro credits, like in quotes. But yeah, we get that 45 minutes in. And then after this full 45 minutes into the movie where we get our intro credits, that's when people start noticing that they're feeling a little off.
Yes.
Right.
They start passing out on the floor or like just feeling like, oh, I feel sick.
The one girl just starts peeing.
Oh, yeah.
In the middle of the floor.
Yeah. After that, I wrote, oh, God, it's happening.
Yes. 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 Selva is the choreographer of dancing. And I feel like at this point, it almost seems like she's going to be a main character. And she is for quite a lot of the movie, but
they do focus on her. Yeah.
Yeah. So she like knows something's up. And she's like, I feel sick. And she tries to kind of get away from the main dance area. And I do love this part of the movie where like she goes through different halls and different rooms and each one is different. It's lit by different colors.
Yeah.
So she goes through like red and then it's very green and then very, I don't know, something. And then she goes into like a purple room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where she sees, oh, what's her name? The pregnant girl.
Oh yeah, what is her name?
Oh, I don't remember. I honestly don't remember.
There are so. I mean, there's like
I know Daddy's name, and
okay,
oh, yeah, there's Daddy. Yeah.
Next thing on my notes. Why do they call him Daddy?
I don't know, but I love it, and I love that in the credits his name is Daddy.
It's Daddy,
like on his IMDb.
I think so. I think it's Daddy because he is the DJ, and so he's kind of like the dad of the group. He's like
he's Daddy.
Yeah, he's Daddy.
And they all like go to him, right? Like
yeah, they do.
Yep.
When people start feeling unwell, they're like, oh, like I don't feel well, like to him trying to get help.
Yeah.
I love it.
There was also a girl named Gazelle, and I love that for a name.
Yes.
Gazelle, which is amazing. But yeah, so Selva goes and she goes into the purple room and the one girl who ends up being pregnant, she's the girl from the opening credits.
Yes.
And she says that she doesn't feel sick from the punch. She says that she feels sick because she's pregnant. But she has to be she has to have taken drugs because she gets so weird and hallucinates just like everyone else. So I think she also got drugged.
I have an opinion on that, but we can get to it when we get there.
No, well, what do you think?
So I don't think she's drugged. I think she sees a pack of 20 people descending upon her and she thinks, I can either stab myself in the stomach or they're going to do it. So I'm just going to do it. And that way they can't get me.
Yeah.
I mean,
because at first she is almost the most reasonable.
Yep.
Because at this point I wrote, because I think when she initially gets, attacked by that other person and like kicked, she says like someone call an ambulance.
Yeah.
Like, things are not going right here. Let's call an ambulance and get help. Well, and then I'm trying to remember. Who is it? Is it her character or is it Selva that's walking down when the person lights themselves on fire?
That's Selva, I think.
That's
it's
Selva.
Selva,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
cool. Because I mean, if they're all seeing all this crazy stuff, so it's like, yeah, even
Right.
if you aren't on drugs, just the crowd
Right.
mentality, and there's a snowstorm outside, so you can't really leave.
Right.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
don't
That's a
know.
good point.
I could kind of see that where it's like, no, she didn't do drugs, but like just the state of everyone else.
Got to her.
Yeah.
Well, and so we should back up just a minute because before Selva goes into the room and finds the girl who, divulges that she's pregnant,
Mhm.
they are all trying to figure out like, well, wait, we've been drugged, something happened.
Yeah.
And there's this guy, Omar, and he was the only guy not drinking the punch that was in that main room. And
Mhm.
so they all think that he did it. So they just start like accusing him. It's almost like this like angry mob of people, and they kick him out in the snow.
Mhm.
So like they are on a war path to find whoever spiked the punch.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
they
this
saw
is-
what she did
Yeah.
or what
Yeah.
he did. So
Yeah.
she probably thought, I'm not going to let them do something like that to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is just the worst group of people to be with.
Right. So I feel like because we're talking about kind of what goes down, we should talk about what we're sipping on.
Oh,
Yes. I mean, we only had one choice,
Yeah.
For this movie.
In the movie, at the start of the party, the mom of Tito, I forget her name, but the mom of Tito,
Mhm.
she makes sangria.
Yep.
And everyone talks about how delicious the sangria is, how great the sangria is. We come to find out someone put LSD in the sangria.
Jesus. Yeah.
Ours is
Um,
not laced.
No.
or
no. Well,
is
speak for
it?
yourself. Yeah.
So I am drinking something called Fangria, which all of us
Oh.
are fans of vampire wine,
Mhm.
brand vampire wine.
Oh yeah.
Well, last October, I sent my husband to the liquor store to get some spooky wine.
Yes.
And he came home. One of the things he came home with was from that vampire brand.
Mhm.
And it's called Fangria, like fan, like fang.
Oh. Mhm.
And it's pre-made sangria. So I cheated. I did not put fruit with wine and brandy and all that stuff.
Okay,
I'm
yes.
just drinking Fangria from Vampire Wine, and it's very good.
Oh, okay. For a second, I honestly thought you were about to say that you made some sort of Fanta contraption, like combined like wine and Fanta to make your sangria.
That might not be terrible.
It might not be, but it sounds offensive,
Mhm.
So everyone in Spain and Portugal just cringed a little bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I am not imbibing right now. I'm on a sober journey. So I'm having a mocktail version and I'm just having punch.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Delish.
basically just a wine punch, right?
Yep.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, sangria is typically just either red or white wine, a bunch of
Mhm.
fruit. Sometimes you fortify it with some brandy.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically it.
Yep.
It's so good.
So,
I
very
love
good.
Sangria.
Sangria is great.
It's so good,
As is
but so
punch.
dangerous.
Yeah,
You can just
exactly.
keep
Oh, yeah.
all the fruit and everything. You're like, oh, this is great. It's just juice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
All right. So I feel like we have to go back to the hallway where kind of our first atrocious horror scene happens.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know.
You made
Now-
us watch the movie. You explain it.
Yeah, I'm thinking of so many. So you talk.
Oh, I'm thinking of the scene where the girl catches herself on fire.
Yeah.
Catches her head, her upper back and back of her head on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And then the whoever is in the hallway with her just kind of walks away because they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Well, and I think they were
No one
maybe kind of
helps.
arguing, and someone kind of pushed her. And
Yeah.
she went into she got lit on fire, but it's not like she did it on purpose.
Yeah.
But yeah, her whole just back and hair just like she's engulfed in flames.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then
it's
they
like,
just
I
walk on
mean,
by.
it's also like, well, maybe they didn't help her because they don't even know if it's real. Right.
Right. Exactly.
Exactly.
For all, yeah, they for all I know, whether they were seeing it as something else,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Oh, and you know what? I think why she got pushed was that so she's like known as the cokehead in the group.
Yes.
And someone was saying that the only antidote for LSD
LSD
was
Coke.
cocaine, which I must admit, I'm kind of a square. I don't do drugs. I have not done drugs, but
Mhm.
that doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah, I googled it. It's not. It's
Okay.
not.
Okay.
So actually, apparently, there's pretty much nothing you can do if you're having a bad LSD trip.
Mhm.
You just kind of
Damn.
have to wait it out.
That
Like
sucks.
you just kind of have to have a bad time. And if it's like really bad, like you are going to hurt yourself or others, like you can call an ambulance, but like the hospital's not going to do anything. They're just going to watch you to make sure
Right.
nothing bad happens and like tell you it's going to be okay and try to like get you to
Mhm.
calm down. But apparently there's just nothing you can do. So some people, like if you have a bad trip, it could last like hours of just waiting for it to go away.
Miserable.
Which does not sound
Well,
fun.
I have a little bit of my psych neuroscience book to talk about what goes
Yes.
down when we get into psych of
Yes.
LSD. But yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I think the next notable thing that happens is that the child, Tito, comes out because she had like tucked him in. So he comes out. And so she like takes him because now she's tripping.
The mom.
The mom.
And he had some
Yeah,
sangria.
he had a
He
sip.
snuck a little bit of sangria.
Had a sip of sangria. So the mom takes him to the furnace room or whatever you would call it, where
Yeah.
the fuse box is, and because that's a door with a lock on the outside, and tells him not to touch the box and locks him in, and he's just screaming.
Yeah.
And then she'll later lose the key and not be able to get in the room.
And for
Yeah.
so much of the movie, we get Tito screaming in the
Yep.
background.
Hear him screaming.
Yep.
Just so
Which-
heartbreaking. But also the mom is doing it to protect him because like she knows
Yeah.
they're all tripping
Mhm.
and she doesn't want him to be in danger of all the people, but also
Yeah.
locking him in the utility room.
But that's the worst room. There's like a giant warning sign on there that's like, you will get electrocuted if you touch this. And
But she's
like, "Okay, yeah,
high, so
don't
she
touch it."
probably just doesn't
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
But I
think
hated
of
it.
I know.
And I wrote this. I was like, this is the worst place.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Why did you do this?
Yeah.
Not her, the movie. Why did they do this?
Yes, exactly. Right. And then we also have the scene that we kind of already talked about where, Selva had gone into a room where there's a girl who reveals she's pregnant and then people accuse her. So then what happens after they accuse her of spiking the punch is they all just like gang up on her. And first one guy ends up kicking her in the stomach.
Yeah.
To where she's puking. And then they're all just like coming at her.
Mm-hmm.
And they're gonna hurt her. You know they are.
Oh,
and so then she just starts stabbing herself in the gut.
Yeah.
It was so gruesome.
It's horrifying.
I can't imagine.
Yeah. Just
I really
horrifying.
think she did it to protect herself because she knew they would do worse.
And the whole time they're just screaming, like, do it, like, do it. Like, they're like, telling her to keep going. Like, it's,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
had to
brutal.
I had to
It's
look
brutal.
away from that.
yeah.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So then we get what is my favorite part of the entire movie.
Okay.
So Selva, the choreographer, she starts really feeling the LSD and she has this freak out, but it is so beautiful. She has this like dancey, beautiful, like she's screaming and freaking out, but it's just the choreography of her bad trip was amazing and I was entranced by it. And that's the thing I keep having flashbacks about.
Yeah. Yeah, because she's just screaming, but dancing.
Yes.
The whole yeah.
I loved it. That part I loved.
It's a great scene.
While Selva's having her little dancey freak out, I loved some things that were happening. So she's kind of like moving through the house and I feel like it feels like a haunted house.
Yeah.
Because she just goes to different rooms and there's different things in each room that are surprising. At one point she goes to kind of wash her face, I think, to kind of like snap herself out of it. And then she scares herself in the mirror.
I did like that. Just,
a little bit of comic relief. At one point she's walking through this one room where there's couches and stuff. And there's these two blonde women that are a couple. And one of the blonde women is just having some sexy alone time, but not alone.
Yeah. Yep.
At some point, Selva and the girl who is having her sexy alone time, they kind of start to hook up.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
That's
right.
kind of the
Yeah.
next thing I'm remembering.
Mhm.
Yep.
But maybe something happened before that.
Well, then there's that one guy. I forget his name too, but there's like the guy that they all also start to beat up. And at one point, it seems like he's like unconscious or something.
Yes.
But then we find out he's not because he goes and knocks on the door while
Yeah.
they're
Because I think
hooking up.
I think he was maybe the boyfriend of Selva. Like, are they prior to this night? I think he was kind
Yeah.
of with her or something.
It sounds like he was with everyone a little
Oh,
bit.
is he the slutty guy?
Right. I think that was him. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so people are just starting to get very
I mean,
sexual.
yeah. Like the whole
Honestly,
thing is
so
just-
much of it all happened. Like it's hard to keep straight what happens at what point because it's all convoluted and all intertwined
Yeah.
and
which is
There's
why
no
it is like
order.
yeah, like you do almost get flashbacks to the movie.
yes.
Mhm,
Because
mhm,
everything just kind of happens
mhm.
and you're just kind of walking through and like there is no, I guess, yeah, Selva does kind of work as a main character for a little bit of the movie because we follow her for a while. But other than that, like you're just kind of experiencing it all.
You
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
And you just kind of have to watch it.
Yeah.
You're just kind of experiencing it. Like it's not even like, oh, like this happens and this happens and this happens. It's like it all happens.
Mhm.
Exactly.
You know,
It's
you
very
just-
existential.
It is. Yeah.
Like at one point, there's I already mentioned Gazelle, and Gazelle has a brother.
Oh yeah.
And you
Ugh.
know, at first Gazelle and the brother are talking about, you know, she's before things go down, like she's kind of with some guy, and the brother seems oddly protective about it. And then
Mhm.
it starts to get a little bit like the brother is feeling a little bit sexy toward Gazelle.
Oh yeah.
And then eventually it gets to the point where he is really just assaulting her.
Yeah.
Like
Well, see, maybe, but also she's into it.
not when she is having a seizure and foaming at the mouth, and all
Yeah.
he's doing is trying to feel her up.
No, before that though.
Well, before that, she
Before
seemed-
that.
yeah.
Yeah. But okay. Yeah, before that.
Yes,
a little
obviously
into it.
before that. Like
Then I feel like after that, it's she's kind of saying no, and he's like pushy. I don't. It's sometimes it seems like she's into it, and sometimes it really does not seem like she is.
Yeah.
I mean, they're both high as shit, so like,
right.
Yeah.
it's
And
hard
they-
to tell.
Their vibe was fucked though since the
Yeah.
beginning. When
Yes.
I feel like that's part of it too. I didn't look that much into this movie like that into like reviews and stuff because we just watched it last night. But like I feel like I saw a lot of things about people saying like, oh, like that's not how you would act like when you were on LSD and stuff. And I mean, I haven't done it personally, but I do think a big part of the beginning of the movie with all the introductions was to show you kind of like a tamer version of who they are. Like you could tell there was something up between the siblings
Agreed.
in the interview. Like he was really weird about her dating a guy. And even when she mentioned she had gone to New York, it was like, oh, like when did you go to New York? Like, not
Agreed.
interested, more like concerned. So like, I feel like you see glimpses of their bad characteristics in the interview.
Mhm.
And then the drugs just like super
Amplify.
inflate and amplify
Yes.
all of their bad qualities.
Agreed.
So yeah,
Yes.
and it's like the interview seemed kind of long at the beginning, but like thinking back on it now, it does kind of explain why they all act the way that they do,
Mhm.
you know?
Well,
Mhm.
and then just the mentality of the group influences a lot of it. And we'll talk
Mhm.
about that when we get to sight.
Yes.
Yes.
But I think even if that's not how normally people on LSD would act, it is when there's this group mindset.
Mhm.
it
that's going on.
changes it.
Mhm.
Like,
does.
yeah. Yeah.
And I just wondered, so once things kind of get to their height, there's just these, again, very long scenes of where the camera angles are all crazy and it's kind of on the dance floor again. And the actors are like screaming or crawling or dancing. And it's so long. And I just think, how, as an actor, can you just be like that for
Mhm.
so long? That amazes me. You have to watch the movie to know kind of like what I'm referring to, but just the way that
Mhm.
they're just in this anguish,
Yeah.
altered state for so long. I don't know how you do that.
Yeah. I mean, I did see that so the majority were not professional actors.
Oh, interesting.
For the movie. They were all professional dancers though. And so I do feel like maybe part of that like endurance I guess to keep acting.
It's because you're.
I honestly think it's just because they're professional dancers and they're just used to, being able to do all of this for a really long time. Like it kind of makes sense to go more the professional dancer route than hiring actors and trying to, train them to do this, because apparently the script was only 5 pages, which is insane because scripts usually it's a minute per page. So, a movie would be 90 to 100 to 200 pages depending on the length of the movie. So they only had 5 pages of content. Everything else was just kind of loosely telling them what to do. So I feel like when you have professional dancers, you could tell them like just act the way you think you would act on drugs and dance. They can interpret that a little better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the movie was what, like an hour 40 minutes,
something like that. Yeah.
And the dance scene alone was 75 minutes. So I feel like really 5 pages right there.
They were dancing for at least 90% of this movie.
Yes. Yes. So, and then we get, so kind of at the height of, or the climax, for lack of a better word, of the high of the trip, we get this flash again of a quote where it says, "Life is a collective impossibility."
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think that was the flash that I couldn't get. Okay. And I tried to go back so many times and pause, but it just would flash and go away. So I couldn't catch one of them.
Yeah. So first we have birth is a unique opportunity. And then this one is life is a collective impossibility. And then we get one more.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we kind of talked about it already, right? But the one person, she starts to like have a seizure. This is where like it just goes into pure chaos. Like I can't really say what else happened because it's just chaos.
It really
There's
is.
Like people having just sex, like full sex on the dance floor. There's people having seizures. It is just, the camera is going in so many types of angles and spinning. In my mind, it was spinning. I don't remember if it was.
It was.
But, it is just pure chaos.
It is.
It's just extreme forms of human behavior on all ends of the spectrum. There's people screaming. There's people terrified. There's people euphoric. There's people, it's like living, dying, all these things are happening simultaneously.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then we finally see the doors open.
Yes.
And the police, I guess. I'm assuming it's the police, right? Arrive with the dog.
Well, we forgot to mention the one important tragic thing that happened.
Oh, yes.
Well, where like halfway through the craziness, the lights go out and like just the red lights. I know
to ignore that.
And the red lights just take over. And the mom of Tito just screams, "I've killed him." Yeah. And she runs to the door and she's yelling his name and it's silent behind the door.
There's nothing. Yeah.
So
she just immediately knows what caused the power to go out. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I saw it coming and I still hated it.
I know. I'm just glad they didn't like show it happen.
I'm so happy they didn't show it. I would not have forgiven them if they had shown anything.
Right.
He was so cute.
So
yes, then go back to the doors opening.
Yeah, police arrive. We see people, I don't know, like some of them are like asleep.
Yeah, like
passed out.
Some are in bed. The woman with the burns is just in the sink, just
trying to put
pouring water on the back of her head. Oh my gosh,
yeah, and you just see like her hair is missing. It is
yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. You see,
some people are like passed out. There's some people still dancing. They've got like
some people still dancing.
Some people had a fine night. We see, I think it was the first guy that they kicked out had frozen in the snow.
Yeah, frozen to death.
I didn't even see that.
Yeah, they flash and it's him. He's like curled up in a ball and he's been covered in snow.
I was in another place. I didn't even notice.
Which I was upset about because I thought he like got away. I almost thought maybe he called the police or something. I was hoping that he would survive this. Even the girl who is pregnant, did did she make it, or did they also show her stopping in the snow?
I don't feel like I saw.
I don't think we saw her,
that was
so
what- yeah,
I guess it's kind of open. It could have been her that got to the police.
Yeah,
Oh,
True.
maybe.
true.
We don't know.
Because I wondered, that was one of my questions, is whatever happened to her? Did
Yeah.
she, because we saw her at the beginning, so we know kind of where this night led to for her, but we don't
Mhm.
know
Right.
much after that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We see Gazelle and her brother post coitus,
Right.
Yeah.
like in bed together.
He's like, don't tell dad.
Yeah.
So gross.
Yeah, it's so
It's too much. That one's
Yeah.
too much. All the
It's
other
too
shit, fine. That one's too much.
it's
too much.
It's so hard.
And then we see who it was, right? I'm assuming that was supposed to be the reveal of
Mhm.
who
Well,
I believe so.
spiked the drink.
before that though, we do see Tito's mom. I don't think we talked about
That's
that
right. Because
yet.
the police are walking and they're kind of like loosely checking on everyone, and they
Yeah.
find Tito's mom.
And she's outside the door of the utility closet.
Yeah.
And she had just killed herself because she
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah. They're like, yeah, she's gone.
yeah. So
Yeah.
oh, and
Yeah.
then we see the final quote before we find out
Oh,
what really
yes.
happened.
Right.
Yes.
And this quote is written upside down.
Yes.
So like on the screen, the text is upside down, but it says, "Death is an extraordinary experience,"
Mm-hmm.
but it's upside down.
Yeah. I also missed that one. I couldn't catch it in time.
But then we see
The culprit,
the culprit.
the
Yep.
person who did this.
She has some sort of a book or a pamphlet that says LSD psychotherapy.
Yeah. It's like LSD in giant letters.
Yeah.
And she's putting, I guess, is it
LSD.
or acid, like in her eye?
Yeah.
Like
As eye drops.
the movie's
yeah.
like, we're not done with you yet. We're going
Mhm.
to make you watch someone put drops in their eyes.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Again, painfully slow. I swear
Yeah.
that was 5 minutes long.
Agreed.
Her put drops in
very
her
long time.
eyes. I can't. That's
It
the worst thing
was.
to
It's
watch.
a very long time. Mm-hmm.
And that's
That's it.
the end, right? Did they? I'm trying to think. What were the? No, then we finally get the name of the movie.
Yes.
So instead of
right.
end credits, we now get to see the name of the movie. We just see Climax
Mhm.
show up. Oh,
So it's almost like they did it backwards.
so they did it. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Because they do they did
End credits.
end credits, then what caused the problem.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I did not even think of that.
Yeah.
And then what happens at the very end, the girl crawling away, was the beginning. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
And then, I just sat for 30 minutes and thought about what I just experienced.
Mhm.
And then that's it. That was the night.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That's it. That's it.
Sounds
well,
like a good night.
Well, now seems like a good time to maybe dive into some psych.
Oh God, I feel like, so again, I just watched this last night, so I didn't have a ton of time to go over psych, but we got a lot to process, ladies.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So let's go over a little bit. I've also dived into a ton of my textbooks. I have 3 textbooks open now.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So-
The textbooks.
yes. So the first thing I noticed is when they were interviewing all of the dancers at the very beginning, they had there was a TV with that was showing all of the interviews and the people that were like in front of the gross wall. But the TV itself that we were watching, it was in a bookshelf. And in the bookshelf, there was a lot of psych-related books. Now, most of them were in
Oh.
French, so I could not discern what they were saying. But I did see one that was about schizophrenia and one that was about possession, which I just thought was a really nice touch that they
Oh,
just sprinkled
interesting.
some creepy books in there
Yeah.
and some psych
'Cause
books in there.
I do think part of that was they included some of their inspiration in the movies and books that were surrounding them during their interview.
Oh, Okay.
Okay.
So that would make sense.
Okay, that does make sense. Yeah. So let's first get into my diagnoses of this group. And I'm going to diagnose them all with what's in the DSM as other hallucinogen intoxication.
Okay.
AKA they're intoxicated with something that's a hallucinogenic.
Yeah.
Fair.
But that also led to a substance intoxication delirium. So you get this delirium that's from your the drugs that you've ingested.
Yeah.
So when you have this other hallucinogen intoxication, some things that you'll experience would be, well, you have clinically significant problematic behavior or psychological changes, which we see for all of them. Like they just start losing their shit. And I should disclaim that before we get going too much, does someone else want to say the disclaimer for me?
Yeah, don't forget, folks, she is not a real doctor, but it's okay because they're not real people.
So my non-doctor psych diagnoses of these people is this like intoxication. Really, it just feels like you've lost your mind. And this is literally in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, the DSM-5, where it talks about where you feel like you have lost your mind.
I feel like I've lost my mind
Exactly,
since watching that
right?
movie.
Like you have this just this paranoia, your judgment is impaired, and this all happens shortly after you take this hallucinogen.
Mm-hmm.
Your perceptual changes occur. So you like either your perceptions are intensified or things don't seem real, or you have illusions, or hallucinations, or like things either that aren't supposed to be together come together, or things that are supposed to be together like separate.
Mm-hmm.
So just like all of these like visual, perceptual, like mind fuckery, basically.
Yeah.
And like some things you can go through is, you can have your pupils can dilate. You can have like fast heart rate, sweating, blurred vision, tremors. You're not coordinated, which I think we see with all the dancers, even though they're still like dancing and stuff. They aren't dancing as well.
No,
like I think you see that a lot with Gazelle. Like she's dancing and she just looks, you know what it is? She looks like me dancing, which normally she's this amazing, wonderful trained dancer, but you get some LSD in her and she's just like a regular girl. Like,
it's just gonna,
That's what we see. So, so a little bit about LSD and the psychology of LSD. So LSD is, let's see if I can say it, lysergic acid diethylamide.
Nice. That sounds good.
So it produces these distortions of visual perceptions, which can either be fascinating and like you're just in awe of it, or just absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
Which I feel like most of the characters in this were terrified.
Yeah. I mean, I tried again, my, RIP to my search history.
Right.
Because I was trying to look up just like LSD trips and, like how long they last and stuff. And I found like a few things where it was like, like this is how you set yourself up for success, basically. And it was pretty much all of, they did the opposite of everything. Like one was be in a safe space, like know what you're going into, and like where you are and stuff. Two is be with the right people. They were not. No. Another one was just like mentally prepare yourself, like remind yourself everything's going to be okay. Like do all these things to like prepare yourself for what's going on. And it's like, well, they were all spiked. So
unwillingly
immediate paranoia, I'm assuming, for all of them. So it was just, they were all kind of set up to have a very bad time.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Mm-hmm. Because there can be, and there's been, a lot of psych studies on LSD use, among other hallucinogenics like LSD and PCP and blah, 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 all of them. So like, if you're going through a good trip, you're going to experience just sharpened visual and auditory sensation. And then you'll have like these thoughts and these convictions that you've achieved these amazing philosophical insights. So that's why like people can have these wonderful things because they're like, oh my God, I figured out the meaning of life.
Yes.
And like they can be so good and you just feel ecstasy.
Yes.
But conversely, kind of like Yvette, all the things that you said would set you up for a bad trip would include fear, panic from your distortions, severe depression, marked confusion, disorientation, and delusions.
Mm-hmm.
And then also flashbacks. So sure that the high itself from LSD, can last those few hours. But flashbacks and recurrence of the hallucinations that you had while you were on LSD, it can take days or weeks.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I feel like if
wild.
nothing, this movie was a anti-drug campaign.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because holy shit, like scary.
For sure.
Yeah. This is sponsored by Dare.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Holy moly. So then I busted out my behavioral neuroscience textbook because I was like, I want to know how LSD works in your brain.
Yeah.
So again, we talked about, it produces these visual distortions, and it does that because it's okay, ready for the sciencey part? It's an agonist for the postsynaptic serotonin receptors in the forebrain.
That's what I would have said.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think I know like one of those words for sure.
I know the
In
word
other
post.
words, it's this substance, and it kind of initiates this this psych response, like this hallucinogenic response, when it's combined with your serotonin receptors. So when LSD and your serotonin receptors, it kind of creates this effect that's going to create these distortions in you.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it LSD is not considered to be an addictive drug.
Oh,
So it's
Yeah.
not like a lot of drugs where it's going to like get you hooked. A lot of people do it all the time because they like the way it feels, but physically it doesn't often create a dependence on the drug, unlike a lot of other ones.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like a lot of other ones, they'll mess with your receptors to a point where then you need more, right? So your serotonin receptors are, intensified or dulled enough that then they don't work normal. So you need more and more of the drug in order to get that homeostasis, in order to get that like normal feeling.
Yeah.
But LSD is not one of those.
Huh.
Interesting. I thought I tried looking it up, but I also saw that I don't think you can OD, like overdose on
Correct.
LSD.
I also saw that.
Yeah.
You cannot overdose from LSD, but many people do die from LSD because they engage in very risky behavior,
Right.
or they will kill themselves, or accidental death because they don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like doing
Jump off
things
bridges.
as a result. Plus, I mean, in this party, we're supposed to assume that they had a very generous amount of sangria. So, like, definitely combined with alcohol. And they mentioned at least a few of them had Coke with it, right? So, I guess when you combine all three, I imagine that's kind of a nasty mixture.
Recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we've got the drugs going on. But I would say an equal contributor to the chaos that we see that happens in this movie is kind of the idea of mob mentality.
Oh, yeah.
Which comes from social psychology. So this is in essence where you ignore your individual characteristics, morality, behavior that you would normally do in order to adopt to the behavior of the group. So there's some interesting psych experiments that have happened to kind of like show how this can work, that are a lot more innocent than the movie that we just watched. So there's one where it's, I think, sheriff. There's this experiment that they did where people went in and they're in a dark room and they see a light and it flashes and then it goes away. and then they see a light again. It flashes and it goes away. And the experimenters ask the group, they say, okay, how far did the light move?
Okay.
And so when people were on their own, the range of where they saw the light was huge. It was like, I'm going to make something up. I'm going to say on a scale between 0 and 10, the low was 0, the high was 10. They were all the way in between. And really, in reality, the light never moved. That's like a visual perception, or that's like a distortion that can happen. Like if you're in a dark room and you see a light, you think it's moving, but it's always the same spot.
Okay.
So then they get the people again, and they do it in a group where there's 3 people in the room. They're watching the light, and they ask them, okay, how far did the light move? And suddenly the amount that they say the light moves gets smaller and smaller. It gets closer to this like consensus and this middle.
Yeah.
So, and the more and more you're with the group, the more and more all of a sudden at the end, even then when the individuals were by themselves, they all kind of reached whatever that group consensus was for how far the light moved, like 2 inches. They all got close to that because they were conforming to the group, where the conditions of the experiment did not change at all.
Yeah.
So it kind of just shows like when you're with a group, even if you're not trying to, you're going to go and you're going to start doing what the group does.
Yeah.
Was another experiment by Ash, and this was in 1951. And this is a thing where, like, again, people see these sets of lines, and there's like a line, and then there's 3 different size lines. And they say, okay, which line matches? Like, is it line A, B, or C that matches, the target line? And there's clearly one correct answer. Like the other 2 are way shorter or way longer. When they were by themselves, all people in like experiment, they all said they were like less than 1% got it wrong. Like they all said the correct line because it was super obvious. Like this is not like the little dot where it's kind of ambiguous. This is like clearly obvious. But then they got in this experiment where they had other people in the room, but all the other people in the room were fake.
Oh, like plants.
Like they were all part of the experiment. Yeah. And so like they were trained on, I think like 12 of the 18 like experiments. They all said the wrong line. And so by the end of it, all of the actual, experimentees or whatever, they ended up saying like 37% of the time they answered incorrectly when it's obvious. It's like if you're shown a red or a blue and you're saying which one is blue, it's like everyone else is saying the red one is blue. So then you start saying that the red one is
like, okay, fine, it's blue.
But it's like clear.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it kind of goes to show this group mentality that will cause you to do things. So like when they're attacking the pregnant woman, or when they are just engaging in this, I would say sexually kind of not normal or not typical behavior. They're doing that because they're part of the group where this group is saying it's okay. They're saying violence is okay, or someone starts to do it and then the rest of them start to do it. So that's like this de-individuation. That's where when you kind of lose your own sense of self-awareness when you're in a group.
Yeah.
Or like you lose your own sense of like identity. And then when you're in a group, you can have like it can lead to heightened emotional states. So even just being part of the group, someone gets mad, but then the mad is not just a normal mad, it's like a heightened mad. Because again, you're like feeding off that group energy and it like spirals out of control.
Wow. Yeah. The group energy in this movie was borked. It was not good. Because you have to think, if this was just like a really happy, chill, everyone gets along kind of situation, this movie would be pretty boring because everyone probably like, I don't feel well, but don't worry guys, it's all okay. Let's just all go, take a nap real quick.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And groups can lead to just this altered sense of what is acceptable. So behaviors that would typically seem unacceptable, if you see other people in the group doing it, you're like, oh, all right, I guess that's okay. Because the group members are normally, I would say no, but I'm now, my identity is not my own. It's the group's, and the group says it's okay. So let's do it.
Yeah.
But then as more and more people do it, the numbers get higher. And then you're like, oh, okay.
Yep.
Right.
there's also a little bit more
Fascinating.
anonymity when you're in a group, right? So like
Yeah.
if there was one guy and the pregnant girl and it's just him and her and he just starts to beat her up, it's him, right? It's like, that was you were the aggressor, this is obvious. But when you're part of a
Yeah.
group, you can almost hide in anonymity because everyone's doing
Everyone.
it. So it's not you, it's
Mhm.
everyone.
Definitely.
So it like diffuses
Yeah.
this personal responsibility because it's not you, it's the group.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I feel like all of these things combined can lead to mob mentality where you all just start to do it. I don't feel like there was really necessarily a leader
No.
to the
No.
aggression or to the sexual behavior because
No.
it's like maybe someone started to do something small,
Yeah.
let another person to be a little bit more aggressive or sexual, which led another person to be just a tiny bit more. But then all of a sudden, it's just like they're all feeding off of each other and building and building and building.
Yeah.
Until it becomes this like typically absolutely unexpected human behavior is happening and it seems normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's mob mentality for you. That's what I think goes on in this movie.
Yeah. I think that
I
makes
think
sense.
that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, good analysis.
Yeah. And next, some other movie that we talk about, we'll talk a little bit more about obedience because I feel like that plays a small part in this, but I feel like I want to save it for a movie where it's like a little bit bigger of a
Yeah.
role.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So we'll just stick with the mob mentality, and that's what I got for today.
Nice.
Loves it.
Yeah.
I got to bust out my neuroscience book, you guys. That
Oh
was
my
super
gosh.
fun.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's great. Oh.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Seeing this movie, would either of you ever do LSD? I mean, I guess this is a podcast. We should probably be discreet, but
Yeah. I know. I feel like it's tough because like, okay, there was like that show on Netflix. I forget what it's called, but it's like it's one where they basically just like cover, you know, a few different drugs. Like they start kind of like easy with like tobacco and its original uses, and then they get into LSD and how it actually has helped people in different ways. So like when I see stuff like that, it's like, oh, okay, like I see the positive effects. And a big part of this was kind of pushing, you know, here like the positive things when done correctly and why it could actually be a good solution for a lot of people. And then, you know, you see stuff like this movie where it's like, oh, like obviously it's a movie, you know, so like it's not real. But on the other hand, it's like, yeah, man, like one thing happens to make you paranoid and like you could spend the next 12 hours just kind of screaming into the void.
yeah.
So it's like, is the potential for the bad worth it for the, you know, the really crazy, like really, you know, happy highs that people have experienced where it's like, oh, I saw music, you know, like you always see like crazy stuff like that. So I don't know. I think to me, the negative is like too negative, you know? So I might be a pass on LSD for me personally.
Yeah.
I think for me, like I know my own brain and my brain goes dark.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
just
you like
with
this
like,
movie.
with my depression and whatnot, like I don't think my brain would do well on LSD.
Yeah. I think you just have to know yourself and like where you go.
That's what I know where I go and I don't want to go there.
Yeah. What about you, Laura?
I think same. Like I've heard and I've read a bit of research up on things like microdosing, which is not LSD. So I know that there can be a lot of benefits for like psychopharmacology. I know that there is.
Yeah.
But drugs like LSD, I agree. I think I'm too paranoid. I don't have so much the depression, but I do with the anxiety. So I just think my paranoia and fear would just, take over. And so it would not be a good trip for me.
Yeah. Like even weed, you know, it's like for me, like I have to like remind myself, I'm like, it's legal in the state of Oregon. You are going to be okay.
Yeah.
No one has
Yes.
ever died from an overdose on marijuana. Like,
Right.
it's like literally just weed. I have to like remind myself all
Uh-huh.
of those things to set up for a positive experience.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine LSD. I don't think I could control my brain to
No.
be positive for
No.
that.
No. Well, and that's the thing. You can't like
Yeah.
physically, chemically, like you
Mhm.
have lost control for a bit of all of
Yeah.
your neuroreceptors. Like so you can't control it.
Yeah, we all just have monkey brains and, just doing
Exactly.
our best out here.
Yep. Yep. So yeah. It was a fascinating, thought-provoking movie, I will say.
Definitely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did look up, because I think at the beginning it says, I don't know if it says it's fully based on a true story or like kind of based on a true story.
Mm-hmm.
I read interviews with the director. I was on Reddit. I was in the forums trying to figure out what this true story was. I don't think it was actually based on a true story. I think it was loosely based on a party in Paris where the drink did get spiked, but
Okay.
nothing happened.
Okay.
So obviously that's not good. I mean, no one wants their drink to be spiked.
Right.
But it just ended up that nothing really happened. Nothing like this movie. People had kind of a surprisingly bad experience because, you were shockingly on drugs.
Right. That would do it.
But nothing like this movie, like nothing bad happened.
Mm.
So if anyone can find any other true story that this was based off of, like, please let me know, because I was deep in the internet. I was trying so hard to find a true story for this, and I couldn't find anything.
Well, and that brings me to my next question of why, because drugs aren't cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Why, if you have drugs and if you're into LSD all the time, are you going to give it away to a room full of healthy people?
In this situation, I think the answer is if she was reading a psychotherapy book, I think she thought she was doing good to the group. Like, I'm doing good for my
do you
group.
think?
Yes, for sure. Like, here is my dance trope that, like, I want to continue with and be with, but we've got some issues. So we're going to heal together through LSD. And I know what it's done for me.
Yeah.
I think that's genuinely what it was.
See, on the one hand, yes, but in the interviews at the beginning of the movie, she's the one that was from Berlin, right? And said she was escaping the bad drug scene. So like at the beginning, to me, like I almost thought, obviously it's not her, because her whole thing was she was leaving Berlin because her roommate was like always taking acid and stuff.
But the bad drug scene, maybe she felt
true.
like
that's true.
She could use drugs to heal.
Yeah. It was just like, really, you of all people would then go drug your entire, 20-person dance troupe. Yeah.
See, the cynic in me is just thinking only someone would do that for nefarious reasons. Like no one would do that for good.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just cynic in me.
Yeah. I don't know if at the end, I couldn't really tell why she did it, if I'm being honest. We can dive into this time in history now, I think.
Let's do it.
So the movie is supposed to take place in 1996. So I just did 1996 because that honestly sounded more fun.
I'm so excited for this. I loved 1996.
Okay, honestly, so much happened. I pulled some of the highlights, but this is honestly, I think, one of the longer lists. I use this website. It's called like the People's History or something, where you just enter a year and it just pulls up so many things that happened. So one, and we always mention it, but in the US, the president was Bill Clinton.
Clinton.
The biggest news, Prince Charles and Diana divorced.
Oh,
shocking news.
Scandalous.
Across the world.
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of technological advances in 1996. I just said that word correctly while drinking a lot of sangria. And I would, yes, thank you. I think I deserve that. Ask Jeeves was formed.
Oh my gosh, I remember that.
I remember when Ask Jeeves was still big and then Google came along. I think I'm remembering this correctly.
Yeah.
And
So
it
this
was
is
like,
pre-Google for anyone
Yeah.
out there.
like Googling seemed so stupid. It's
Yeah, people
no,
are
you
like,
go-
Google will never catch on.
no, go ask the internet
Just-
butler. His name
Just
is
ask
Jeeves.
Jeeves.
He wears a tuxedo.
Oh my gosh.
That's what you want.
NASA launched the Mars Global Surveyor with the objective to take high-resolution photos of Mars.
Oh.
Now we're gonna live there pretty soon.
Oh yeah, any day now.
Mhm.
DVDs were launched in Japan.
Oh my
we
gosh.
got DVDs, everyone.
That
That's
is
amazing.
wild.
What a time we have
Right?
lived through.
Also in Japan, Nintendo released their newest gaming system, the Nintendo 64.
Best gaming system ever.
So good.
Mario Kart.
Honestly, still iconic.
Mm-hmm.
Dolly the sheep became the first mammal to be successfully cloned.
I remember that.
So controversial.
Yes. IBM's Deep Blue defeated a chess champion for the first time. Can you believe all of this happened in 1996?
No.
Now we have AI like writing.
Yeah.
Our life.
Yeah. Let's see.
Mad cow disease hit Britain. Not as fun,
Mm.
but I had to
No.
include it.
Yeah.
The Summer Olympics were held in the US in Atlanta.
Mm.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then the last fun fact I had was that Spice Girls got their first #1 wannabe.
Yes.
I miss the Spice Girls.
Well, and of course, you
amazing.
and Matthew.
And most importantly, I was born.
It's very exciting. The world was never the same.
And the world would never be the same. And my husband was also born. Whatever.
Yeah, who cares about him?
That's fine. That's secondary.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
That's all the
amazing.
fun facts I had.
96
But
was a
honestly,
good year.
so much in 96.
Yeah, it's a big year.
That was a
So
good year.
much.
Mhm.
I think the Macarena also came out in 96. I swear I
Oh,
saw that.
well.
Yeah.
Then forget about the
Iconic.
rest.
Never forget.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
that's all my
right.
fun facts.
Well, here on Spooky Sips, we don't give stars as ratings. We give sips. So, ladies, this is going to be a weird one. Out of 5, how many sips are you giving this movie?
This one is hard because
Mhm.
I feel like my rating is going to change every day.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's going to take me a full week to process this movie. So
Yeah.
I don't know my rating yet.
I know. I kind of feel the same. And I will say, although psychologically this was a horrific movie, to me, I don't feel like I would classify it as a horror movie.
Yeah, that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
I would classify it as a spooky movie. And the
Yeah.
reason I call it a spooky
Yeah.
movie is because, like, the human existence is spooky.
Exactly.
Yes.
Like psychologically horrifying and spooky. Yes.
There's nothing scarier than humans.
Yes.
Exactly. And so okay, so parts I liked. I love the dancey vibe. I used to want to be a dancer when I was a kid.
Oh,
and
Who didn't?
like that was my jam, man. So I loved that aspect of it, and I really liked the 90s vibe. And I liked that they included people who are also against flags, like myself.
You feel seen.
I feel seen. They're pointless. Okay. So there was a lot of things I liked about it, and I liked like the psychological turmoil we went through. But I don't know, parts of it too were just so long, and I was just waiting for it to be done, which I think was done on purpose because it gets in your brain, right?
Yeah.
But I think I didn't enjoy the movie more than I did enjoy the movie. So for that reason, I'm going to go with a 2.75 for this movie.
Okay.
Slightly below one where I would say it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, I don't know, it left me with weird vibes, which is, I guess, a good thing.
I think this is just one of those movies, though.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm going to go 2.75. I'm sticking with that.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with a 3.5.
Okay.
And my reason for that is I think it's a very interesting movie. It's not like any other movie I've seen. The cinematography
Yeah.
is incredible. And honestly, like, although it made me uncomfortable, the way that they capture
Mm-hmm.
the psychological distress was beautifully done,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
in my
that's true.
opinion.
Yeah.
So yes, it did make me uncomfortable, but I enjoyed that. So yeah, I have to go with a 3.5.
Okay.
Respectable choice. Yvette, you got to
think-
decide.
Yeah, I think for me, and I really do think this, I think we've had other movies like this, but I really think this movie is just personal preference. Like if you're into
Yeah.
this movie or you're not. Like it's like you either like it or you don't. I don't know.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I think for me it wasn't my cup of tea. Also, I will say at the beginning, I feel like maybe the acting wasn't great for some of the parts. Like when I saw that they weren't professional actors, I kind of understood maybe part of why I didn't like the movie. So I think for me it's closer to like a 2.3, a
Okay.
little lower. I think it's a little lower.
Okay.
I don't know if I'd recommend it
Okay.
personally,
Okay.
but it's
Mhm.
definitely going to stick with me.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to keep having flashbacks to this.
It's like you have those LSD flashbacks.
Yeah, this is going to give me that.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing for me, even though I gave it an under 3 rating, I think I would recommend it. Just because I feel like, I don't know, it's a journey, and it's
It
if
is.
you ever want to do drugs without doing drugs, just watch this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
So next time on Spooky Sips, we are doing a short film. It's called The Strange Thing About the Johnsons. So if you haven't seen it yet, get watching and get sipping. And we'll see you next time on Spooky Sips.
Hey,
Yay, bye.
Thank you for listening to Spooky Sips. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're listening. To stay up to date on all the spooky things we're up to, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at spookysips_podcast. And if you want to help support the podcast, consider buying us a coffee, or really a cocktail. We are completely independent, so every little bit goes a long way to keeping our podcast running and improving. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.